how the life comes into being, except there are concepts. Brain is physical, mind is not physical. Mind is an emergent or functioning brain and nervous system. So you can access your body, the whole body inside, through the surgery, for example. How many of you seen human hearts? You all have a heart, I know, right? I cannot say you're heartless people, right? You will kick me out. Hey, you cannot come to this college anymore, right? So they'll probably ban me from coming here. So you all have a heart. So the question is, what is it? I actually touched the real hearts. I used to do, I used to go to the, Dr. Kane Cherian is a good friend of mine, the famous cardiac surgeon. So I go to his hospitals to do the open heart surgery time. So we developed some technology, these nanopipes. For heart attack patients, we developed patches which they use in the clinic. Point is, when I went to the open heart surgery, I actually could touch the real hearts. So like 1-year-old baby, 20-year-old, 30, 50, they will open the chest, oh, touch it. So I touch it. Wow, it's a different experience. But what is interesting to me is, what do you think is the color of the heart? What is the color? Right, all those, Valentine ideas, pink and all that. But, actually I was shocked. Some hearts are actually, they're yellow in color. Because the fat is happily deposited. Say that's not pink. So then you realize you have to be very careful with everything. Food you eat, stress levels, blah, blah, blah. Even COVID-19 affected the people heart, blood formation, all that. So you need the knowledge. So the main point I want to make is, I could access through the surgery almost every part of your body. Not me, surgery. But how would I access your mind? Mind is not physical. So how do I? Which part I open and look for one mind? How do I do that? So the only way you can access the mind is the thought. So thoughts could be from outside, like mentoring, people talking, messages. Basically, whatever I'm saying is actually a form of thought. And it's getting into your head if you allow it to come in. Otherwise, you put there some earbuds and then switch out because you won't hear me. But still, you are subjected to the thoughts from outside. But you also have your own thoughts. So using thoughts, you can organize your mind. So you have the tool. Provided you realize you have the tool and use your own thoughts to organize it. So for example, I was telling them, some people ask me, how come you are so efficient? I just tell them an example of expressways. So in an expressway, you have a clear lanes and everybody stick to the lanes. You can drive faster. In a smaller area, there's no express lanes, there's no lanes. People are driving everywhere. You can't go faster, right? So, with an analogy, if you ask yourself, mind is full of thoughts. All you need is to put an effort to kind of clean it, make it simple. Of course, it's not that simple, but that's the only way. So if you make it simple, clutter-free, that means there's nothing really obstructing. Your thoughts can go faster. Right? You can be efficient. You can get things done faster. Things will be much clearer. So to me, my observation is through thoughts, one will do that. Yeah. The mindset is extremely important. This guy is a Ugandan 5,000 kilometer runner. And if you notice what he said, I have learned that anything is possible if we have the right mindset. And On the other side, he basically, everybody, the social distancing and isolation, COVID-19, they're all struggling. But these guys self-taught himself to make sure his mind is focused. So with the right mindset, he will do a lot of things. So of course, he won the global competition. The mindset. Yeah, I can give you this one. These are more details of the researcher. This I just want to emphasize, very important. The drags scientific career are those three. Plagiarism. If you plagiarize or anybody plagiarizes, that will haunt them for sure. Mm-hmm. So many people lost the opportunities because of plagiarism, fraud, overclaims, cooked up research, and outsourcing. I mean, somebody else does it, you have ghost researcher, ghost writers. And then the other one is unfairness to the others. Particularly. As long as you're aware, I think you have a better research feelings. So it's better to avoid those. The other one is lip star. Give your 100% best, your 100% best, not mine or somebody else, yours. That's all you can do. That's all you want to do. As for your concern, you're not giving anything less than what you're capable of. Give your 100%. Build teams and networks is really helpful. And if classical example, right? If myself and Dr. Amalnerkar, we didn't communicate before, build our relation, say 10 years ago, we would be here. Right? That's it. I'm happy to be here, right? So that's it. And then enjoy research and knowledge. I think fundamentally, research is not a work. What is a work? Action. I don't want to even say all that kind of heavy words. Enjoy it. If you can enjoy it, it's nice. Yeah. I think these are, this basically, when you travel internationalization, which is mentioned by Nali. So internationalization actually changes your perspective. Meeting people from other ecosystems, interacting with them, working with them, changes your kind of. This is good. Of course, if you do that well, you can go around and experience all cultures. And why not? That's kind of perks of being a passionate researcher. Yeah, this is just again last slide. There's no message there except somebody gave it to me. He's the next Prime Minister of Singapore. He gave it to me. He's just been identified. He gave me, I think, on the second name. It says, continue to live your dreams. So my message to you also says, continue to live your dreams. And I wish you all happy future life. Thank you. Q&A. Questions? Are you all hungry or you want to have questions?
Sir, I have one.
Sure.
Acceptance for your very motivating rather innovating trick. So you just touched upon the stem cells. I just want to know about the fundamental concept of stem cells and how much it is useful in treating the treatment.
Okay, thank you. So I think for non-biology people, I'll explain. I'll just give the quick numbers. Human body is made of several trillions of cells. Trillions. Cell is the fundamental, smallest living unit in the body. If you go below the cell, they're just molecules. The cell is a living part. So the cell has a life, as long as a living cell. If the dead cell, there's nothing there. If it is a living cell, that's the smallest unit that contains life in our body. And now, with that concept, now you start looking at it. There are 200 or 300 different types of cell types in our body. For example, my eye has a different cells than the skin. So these are all their names like osteoblasts, myoblasts, there's lots of details there. But fundamentally, 200, 300 different types of cells. So you ask the question, where these cells came from? So these cells came from embryonic stem cells. These embryonic stem cells become stem cells, what we call adult stem cells. From there they differentiate into skin, bone, eyes, everything you have in your body. That's what we call differentiation of cells. And that's what we do. So when they differentiate and they become skin cells or bone cells or eye cells, they're already mature. They do not have a potency to differentiate into whatever they want. For example, I have a skin cell. I cannot make it a bone cell. It's a skin cell already. Whereas embryonic stem cells, I can play with it. I can move it to become a stem cell, a skin cell, or a bone cell, or something else. I can change the cell culture and the promoting system. So the embryonic stem cells and stem cells, that's why they are very seen as a very potent and has a potential for treating the diseases. But there is ethical issues with respect to the embryonic stem cells because, okay, now we are getting into the deeper aspect. You remember I said that life is unique and the cells have a life, but essentially when you are born, the day you are conceived by your mother and father, question is, when does life really enter? When does you become you? So I'm not an expert, but I have broad numbers. According to Islam, it's 1 month after the initial conception. When mother and father come together, 1 month later, the soul enters. According to Hinduism, the number varies, is the day, first day itself or 7 days later. According to Christianity, 3 months later. That's why in US there's a huge debate and they fight over it. So, first thing is, there's no consensus. You can see 3 different concepts. And you ask somebody else, they give a different concept. And this is where you come back to the fundamental question, when does really life starts? Why is this such a fundamental? Because embryonic stem cells, when they are identified as actual life, if they get destroyed in the research, you are killing a living being. That's why it becomes highly sensitive. So if you want to do research, take the stem cells, not the embryonic. If you take embryonic, you must read the guidelines very well, national guidelines, otherwise you will be accused of playing with the life. So I can go on like that, because there's a lot of other details. Essentially, yes.
Sir, I have one question.
Sure.
It was a wonderful presentation and I could relate it because I belong to psychology. There are 2 types of research in behavioral science, qualitative as well as quantitative. So according to you, what is the scope of qualitative research in future?
I think both are needed because qualitative research is getting supported by quantitative research. That's the general trend because people want to, people are able to relate the quantitative information to the qualitative one. But it is my sense, we can never take the qualitative aspect from the human mind because they always come up with the qualitative thing. Because we use it's there in our language. And until we reinvent our language, which is impossible, because it's there already, they will not give away. So they will start using a lot of qualitative terminology. So my sense is we still have to live with them. And if you define current qualitative one more precisely, some other qualitative term will come. For example, I define pain very well, some method, done. But then they will come up with another aspect of pain, and they will do it in qualitative. They will express it qualitatively. So humans love using qualitative. initially wanted. Yeah. So as a researcher, more practical aspect, how should you position yourself? That depends basically who are your community you are dealing with. If, for example, you're a professional society member, you will see other researchers, which way they're going. You ask yourself, do I go along the same line or I go differentiate from them? And you.
So I have a question. I really enjoyed your lecture, sir. When you started your lecture, you showed us graph of population. Thanks to our researchers and scientists, because of them, we can say that this graph shows exponential growth. My question is, we study in population ecology that no population can show exponential growth for a long time. Environmental factors are going to control them. But is it true for the human population in this present scenario? Because we do have very good researchers with us.
Right. What's the question?
The question is, the graph will continue exponential growth now also, or will it change?
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, thank you. So, according to what they call planetary boundaries, there are finite resources and capacity of planet Earth that limits how many human beings it can support. And that's why you could see there's a lot of shortage of food supplies, and even the climatic conditions are helping people to live healthily. So they might have issues of survival. So the environmental factors will have an influence on the human population growth, for sure. We already saw that on the birds, trees, and everything, other living. Planetary conditions have an effect. But what I wanted to say is, people twist this one. They add the environmental factor has an intelligence and it's playing on you. That's different from environmental factors automatically does. For example, the air con is blowing more on me. Does it have intention to blow more on me? I don't know. It just has a nice, smart, Dr. Amal put a nice chip there, a smart one. It senses this guy is sweating because of the tough question. So he started blowing my nice air for me. Yeah, I'm making it as a joke so that we can remember well. But the question is, does it actually have intelligence to do that, or is it just doing it automatically? And if it does automatically, all it's doing is environmental factor, no question. What we call planetary boundaries will influence what happens within the planet Earth. It means more people can grow or reduce because of the calamities and other issues, or it may continue. It depends. So definitely there. The moment you twist that and said there is a purpose behind it, there is an intelligence behind it, then we have to go really deeper. I've seen some people talking in the world stage. Well, all these planetary systems, all the galaxies and Milky Ways and beyond. There is a specific intelligence that is actually manipulating everything. But you need to get an evidence. So that's where I know I digress your question, but it's an important question, how you handle it. So if you take it as just as environmental has an effect on me, on human beings, yes. And you can pick one and actually look at the correlation. Sure. Sure.
I have a question.
Sure.
In medical research, stem cell therapy is often. It is work for to make that means this therapy used in special child, special. My question is it worth this stem cell in when we use this stem cell through spinal cord and inject this stem cell in spinal cord? It is work on brain.
Okay.
That means this stem cell work as a brain and make a new tissue on the brain. Is it work?
Yeah, thank you. I'll explain. Stem cells are used for medical treatment in India. but it's only for leukemia. Nothing else. Actually, it's not legal. If you are using stem cells for medical treatment, actual patients, in India, it's not legal other than leukemia. That's it. So any clinics that are actually giving you stem cell treatment is under the table. It's not actually approved by the medical councils. I know for sure of this. But in the future, they will definitely identify how stem cell treatment should be given, because there's a lot of conditions where there's no treatments. Yeah. So stem cell has a potential, no question about it. Right now, the problem is stem cell treatment, you need a proper controls. Otherwise, you inject stem cells, they proliferate, multiply, it can lead to other problems. That's the reason medical councils are very careful. Leukemia is a standard practice. Now, coming to the spinal cord and brain, there is something called neuroplasticity. So neuroplasticity is, it remodels based on the experiences the neurons experience. So now you add the stem cells, you are changing the process. And there is a high good chance that those can be treated. Yeah, like somebody has a spinal cord injury, you inject intervertebral discs, and you might help those neurons that are probably lost the senses, you can regain the senses. I give one example. For example, it's very common. People, fall down in the toilet somewhere, they hit the head. They lose certain mental faculties. Brain has many functions, like more than 100 brain functions. We look at them as regions, like 110 regions are there. They all have specific purpose. Some reason, one region is got disabled, you lose a function. One example is somebody hit their head, they will lose the orientation, they can't stand. They're normal people, but they can't stand because they're unable to get the orientation right. So it takes about a few years to get the orientation back. What happens is, you train the person, other regions in the brain will start taking over that function and help the person to regain that ability. That's called neuroplasticity. Now, when you put the stem cells, you're actually accelerating the process because they're fresh, they're willing to differentiate, and you're training them. So in the future, yeah, if somebody has some part of the brain gone, yeah, get another plug and play, it's possible, yes, sure. And I always joke, I don't, because you're all far away, but if you see here my front forehead, right, there's a line. So in my childhood, I was just playing with the other kids. And in the village, one kid ran faster and then closed the door. And the door has a latch, and the latch ended here. So I had a very deep thing. So my mother used to joke, before that you were a dumb guy, but after that accident you became more smarter. I never understood, but the more I understood the brain, okay, maybe I got an extra fold because of that one. Because the brain has lots of folds. The folds increase your brain capacity. Folds. Folds are basically nothing but higher number of folds means higher large surface area. Larger surface area means more cells can reside. So you're basically packing more. Imagine your suitcase, you fold nicely, pack it, you can put more, right? So the more layers means more cells. More cells means more ability. So without knowing, I thank that person. I don't know, okay, good for me. It's funny, right? It's also actually the damage to the head. But it seems to be, it worked well. So I always say I'm always a lucky guy. It worked out well.
Thank you for a nice lecture, sir.
Sir, I have one question.
Sure.
Since the depletion of this fossil fuel, which is the next energy source for us, whether it is hydrogen energy, electrical energy, or some chemical energy, that I want to know.
Sure. So I am a believer of hydrogen energy. I like hydrogen because once you burn the hydrogen, what you get is water, H2O. So that seems more environmentally friendly than right now what they call electric vehicles, batteries. They actually contribute a lot of pollution. So, but the whole world is going in that direction. But I believe hydrogen is a good solution.
So what is restricting us to use hydrogen energy in large quantity?
The cost. So there are 4 types of hydrogen: gray hydrogen, blue hydrogen. Basically, the way hydrogen is made, there are process, electrolysis process, gasification, streaming process. These are basically chemical engineering processes. Based on the process you use, you produce the hydrogen. All processes will produce hydrogen. The hydrogen that is readily available, people use everywhere, that is from the natural gas. So it's not any good. Natural gas is another fossil fuel. If you can make hydrogen from water or some other source, that becomes green hydrogen or blue hydrogen. But that's expensive. It's now 3 times or 5 times expensive than the other one. That's why it's not picking up. Second issue is the safety. The hydrogen requires a good storing mechanism and release mechanism on demand. Then there could be accidents. That's the problem. But people are solving, scientists. There are places that are using fuel cells and technology. It's a good direction. So I understood Reliance Ambani. He said he wants to build the whole hydrogen economy, so many $1 billion. After many others around the world also doing the same thing. So that seems to be. I'm not endorsing. Don't go and buy the stocks, okay? Because there's a problem with people is they will tell you, yeah, I go and buy his stocks. I'm not suggesting that. It's your choice. As far as I'm concerned, I'm just purely looking at the science. And I think hydrogen is on here. But, well, as somebody said, that's the wisdom now. Maybe 20, 30 years later, we don't know what will be actually the solution. Reason is, a lot of things happen in the human world counterintuitive. So I do have a little bit of doubts, but fundamentally I'll place bets on hydrogen.
Yes. There is a very famous quote that the mechanisms which are happening inside the body and by the body are basically the biochemical reactions. I just want your expert comment.
Yes, you know, right, I have a strong Indian spiritual philosophical background. The more I travel around the world, more knowledge I acquire. Many things we talk about can be explained through the biochemical mechanisms, a lot of things. So most things can be explained, so I would say yes, everything is more or less biochemical. But I don't want to give that impression completely. The reason is there are a few fundamental questions not still answered. Exactly how the life comes into being, what is the nature of life is not understood. We seem to have life, so Africa seems to have life, right? So, but what is the nature of life? Is it energy? What is it? And because when people use the word life energy, they don't actually tell you what exactly it is. When he asked me chemical energy, it's very clear. We know, right? It's basically the CH and the elements and all that composition. When I said life energy, give me an equation. Give me a chemical formula. Or give me a physical formula. Or a mathematical formula. Whatever it is. Nobody gives you. But they say it's a life energy. You can't say no because we all experience it. But what is the form, nature, is not very well precisely articulated. So that's something to understand. And of course, let me ask a good question. Do you have a soul?
Yes.
Raise the hands, please. Oh, only 10 people have a soul. Okay, so, you know, of course, some people use the word soul, some places they use spirit, some people use both. On top of that, the other one is consciousness. Yeah. So now, can anybody differentiate what all this? I try to understand, but it's actually quite challenging. And then on top of that, they make it even more complex. Is the consciousness inside you is different from universal consciousness. I'm not ridiculing anyone. I'm basically telling you the challenges and how to keep going deeper and deeper to understand. So, the universal consciousness, your own consciousness, soul, spirit, whatever, life energy or life force. Can we have a more precise description? I can find one person, I don't know her name, he's one Guruji. He asked me, his Guruji used to run a journal of consciousness. So he actually came and said, I want you to restart the journal. He asked me. I said, I have no problem because I run many journals. I'm a professor, very well known. So easy for me to run a journal, easy. I call the publisher, journal is on. Because they were happy if I say I want to run one, they do it. And I asked him only one thing. Every journal has an editorial board. You get me 10 editorial board members, they are respected by everybody in the world. That's the first condition. Second condition is, any journal, you have to write what is this journal about. So you have to have half a page write-up describing what is this. So I asked him, please help me to write half a page about consciousness. Give it to me. He said, no, I can't write. It takes volumes. Then how to run a journal? The journal requires you to give half a page and then your editorial board and you're done. Unless you condense and tell me in half a page, I can't start. You can't tell me, sir, it is 1,000,000 pages. Then how do I start? So that's one part. Second part, what is more interesting is, I try to condense that knowledge, understanding. Of course, I have limited knowledge. It's very challenging. Extremely challenging to even articulate or talk about it. But we use that in our kind of explaining living beings and living parts. So these parts, the basis need not be biochemistry. This is where your quantum mechanics comes in. What I understood is, again, little at my knowledge. What is the most interesting aspect of quantum mechanics is mass and energy convertible. Mass and energy convertible, interchangeable. The second aspect is that mass changes, depends on who probes it and how you probe it. That means the existence of that itself depends, you probe it or not probe it. So the moment you try to understand it, it's changing already. That's what the science quantum mechanics. There is one more part in the deep physics where I completely shocked. It's written by some Nobel laureates. They said there are a few subatomic particles. They travel much faster than the light. They have no mass. They can go through any dense objects, as thick as planet Earth. They will just zip through them. How to explain? Then the more I actually try to understand, then I figured out, actually they have not discovered them. They come up with the concepts, advanced physics. They came up with the hypothesis of this kind of subatomic particles of certain nature, but they haven't fully really explained. So that's where my knowledge stops, because I don't understand beyond that one. And I'm looking for people who can explain, because I'm trying to understand what do they actually mean. So only the last point I will say, there is a IIT Madras has a Thought Leadership Council. I'm one of the Thought Leadership members. They picked up from the distinguished alumni. So there's one person like Dr. Ramonerkar in the panel, and he's very high level in the government, big top position. He established communication networks in India. So I took the chance and I asked him, can you explain to me how does actually this information transfer happens? So he said, sir, when he started the communication systems, they were struggling to send even 1 kilobyte of information. It takes a long time. But now, we can just send gigabytes of information just like that. What is the medium? Optics and light. And they're basically using the waves of the light, electromagnetic waves. And they're packing the information and they're able to transmit. That's why all our communication systems work. Now you take that understanding and apply it to the concept of soul. Okay, here I'm completely unfamiliar, but I'll just say it because it's good to say it. Everybody said they have a soul, right? And then if you have to explain what is the basis of that soul, if you imagine that has to be a light or energy, you can visualize how information can be stored. Information is nothing but what you call karma, right? Karma is information. Whether you want to call it karma or not, fundamentally it's information. Like whatever we did today, if you memorize it, that's memory. Memory is information. Information can be stored on light. Light exits our body in and out just like that. So it's possible that some of these can be explained using electromagnetic light or energy. There is no biochemistry there, but it's more of the other way. So I think one could cross-synthesize lots of ideas out there, come up with better ideas, hypotheses, then others can validate. And eventually we agree, disagree, and then we'll see what is the next idea, and then keep going. Yeah. And last, this is what happened. There's a CEO of a big company, I don't want to name it, Shaivan. That company has $40 billion business. He has 200,000 researchers. So he invited me and 3 other Nobel laureates for a special meeting. I went. The 3 Nobel laureates basically told him, you must do this, this, that. He's in a communication, mobile devices, like iPhone type. So he asked me, what's your suggestion to me? Remember, $40 billion company, 200,000 researchers, he spends $5 to $10 billion research money. So his question was, what do you want my company to do? Create the future. What kind of future? So all I said to him is, you're spending so much money, you just take 1% of it. Why don't you come up with a communication completely based on revolutionary ideas? Maybe use a light, maybe a thought communication. That means I have a thought, you have a thought, so I don't need a mobile device. So your innovation should help me to communicate my brain to your brain. That's it. But what is he going to lose anyway? He's already got $40 billion, right? You think he will take it with him? No, right, it's going to be here only. So if you're going to spend money anyway, why can't you spend on such a cutting edge ideas? If there is any breakthrough, that's going to fundamentally empower humans. Right? So this is basically what I told him. And after that he hugged me like anything and he said, you are my brother, this and that. So then completely conversation changed. For 3 Nobel laureates, he said, okay, fine, this guy is my special guy. So the advantage of being as much as you can synthesize and you're not worried about anything, you can communicate subtly. People will like you at all levels, all ages. Even kids will like you. That's the benefit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for such an insightful talk. On what a wonderful note you ended your presentation. Continue to live your dream. Sir, in the beginning, you were worried about how to reciprocate things that the Institute has given to you. And here I assure that you have already done it by being a mentor and a guru for our students. You shared your success story with our students, your work methods. You insisted on the need of cross-disciplinary ideas and research ecosystem. You acquainted our students with multiple research methodologies, and at the end, you made us aware of the human aspect of research, that is, be a friend with everybody. Thank you very much for this wonderful treasure of knowledge. Now, may I request the president of today's function, Professor Aman, to have a presidential speech.